Severe weather warnings across southeast Queensland, heavy rain moving through Brisbane and surrounding areas, flash flooding possible. That is what we're looking at right now. I've examined the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology, pulled apart the forecast models, and there's a fair bit to discuss. We've got a tropical low developing in the Gulf of Carpentaria that is going to track across into the Coral Sea, plus a powerful system brewing off the north coast of Western Australia. Both deserve your attention. Right now across southeast Queensland, it's absolutely vile. The humidity is off the charts. Brisbane S sitting at 38 degrees with humidity making it feel even worse. That warm, sticky air mass has been parked over the region all week. Many areas have been waiting for storms to break the heat, but when they finally arrive, it's been drizzle at best. Easily the driest wet summer some of you have seen in Brisbane. Compare that to what is happening up in far north Queensland. Mount Carbine hit 35 degrees yesterday with 80% humidity. They copped 2 big thunderstorms last night between 1 and 3 in the morning. It hammered down, then light rain for another couple of hours. That's the kind of rainfall many southern areas are desperate for. The contrast is massive, and it's all about to shift as we head into next week. Let me break down what is happening meteorologically, because this is where it gets interesting. We've got the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Koji sitting in the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf up in the Northern Territory. That system is struggling to organise right now because wind shear is absolutely hammering it. When you see those clouds looking grainy and streaky like shredded cheese, that is a dead giveaway that upper level winds are ripping the system apart. For tropical cyclones, wind shear is the enemy. We need values between 5 and 15 knots for good development, anything above 40 knots, and the system really struggles to maintain structure. Right now, values are well above that threshold, which is preventing organisation. But here is what matters for Queensland. All that moisture from Koji is streaming across into the Gulf of Carpentaria, that is creating a convergence zone where southeasterly winds are clashing with southwesterly flow. When you get that kind of setup, particularly through Sunday night into Monday morning, you are looking at heavy showers and thunderstorms developing. The Cassowary Coast and the Daintree rainforest will be in the firing line. Between Monday and Tuesday, we're re-expecting a weak, broad, low-pressure system to develop in the southern Gulf of Carpentaria. And I want to be very clear about this because there's been some speculation floating around. This is not going to be a tightly organised, rapidly intensifying system. It is going to be messy, broad and disorganised, similar to how Koji started its life. Lots of moisture, lots of rain, but struggling to get its act together. Why? 2 reasons. First, there is another tropical low, 14U, sitting out near New Caledonia. When you've got 2 tropical systems relatively close together, they interact with each other. They steal each other's thunder, so to speak. One system can disrupt the other's inflow, making organisation difficult. Second, this Queensland system is going to be monsoonal in nature. That means it is going to be rain heavy but structurally weak. The rotation will be there, but it'll be broad and sloppy rather than tight and intense. The Access model and the European model both agree on the basic track. Throughout Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, this low will sit in the Gulf, bringing periods of heavy rain to the western Cape York Peninsula. We're talking falls between 150 to 250 millimetres, with isolated pockets reaching 400 millimetres near where the low centres itself. That is around the Wiper area and south through the Western Cape. By Thursday or Friday, the 22nd or 23rd of January, the system moves offshore into the Coral Sea. And this is the part that people are asking about. Will it come back? Will it threaten the coast as a tropical cyclone? Right now, the answer is unlikely. Once it heads offshore, it'll finally have some room to organise without constant land interaction. But the forecast models are pretty consistent in keeping it far enough offshore that it won't be funneling heavy rain back onto the coast. There's a chance it approaches somewhere between Townsville and Mackay later next week, but even if it does, it's not expected to be strong. Why not? Too much land interaction. For a tropical cyclone to properly intensify, it needs time over warm water without interference. This system will be hugging the coast, constantly dealing with friction from the landmass. That prevents proper development. If you are in Townsville, Cairns or anywhere along the North Queensland coast, my advice is simple. Monitor the forecast every couple of days, check for changes, but don't lose sleep over this one. The chances of a significant cyclone landfall before Australia Day are very low. ID put it at maybe 10 to 15%, and even then, we'd be talking Category 1 at most. The real story here is rainfall. And that is good news for some areas, concerning for others. The Western Cape York Peninsula desperately needs this rain. They've been dry. This system will deliver. Between Sunday and Thursday, widespread falls of 100 to 200 millimetres. Some areas will see more. That's beneficial rain that'll soak into the parched ground without causing major flooding issues. The catchments up there aren't saturated, so they can handle it. The Cassowary Coast from Innisfail down to Cardwell will see periods of heavy rain as well, particularly Sunday night through Tuesday. I am not expecting more than 200 millimetres in most areas. 300 is an absolute ceiling. That S manageable, though you might see some localised flash flooding if intense thunderstorms park themselves over the same area for a few hours. South of that, around Townsville, the Burdekin and into central Queensland, you'd need the low to come much closer to the coast for rainfall to become significant. And as I've said, that S, not what the models are showing. You'll see scattered showers and storms, but nothing widespread or heavy. Now, some of you in Laidley and surrounding areas copped a severe storm recently, lost power, had to prepare quickly. That's the kind of convective activity we'll continue to see across southeast Queensland over the next few days as well. The atmosphere is loaded with moisture and instability. When triggers fire, storms can develop rapidly. Brisbane, you're looking at continued hot and humid conditions through the weekend. Scattered thunderstorms possible each afternoon and evening. Some could be severe with heavy rain, strong winds, maybe small hail. The southerly change that will bring relief isn't expected until early next week. Until then, it's just going to be uncomfortable. So, and for those asking about Newcastle, the storm risk there is lower. The main activity will remain focused further north through southeast Queensland and into northern New South Wales coastal areas. Let me touch on historical context because many of you remember past cyclone seasons. You've lived through significant events. This system we're retracking is nothing like Yassi in 2011. That was a monster. Category 5 at landfall, winds up to 285 kilometres per hour. Devastating impact across the Cassowary Coast. This isn't that, not even close. This is a weak, broad monsoonal low that will bring beneficial rain to some areas and nuisance rain to others. It's worth monitoring because it is cyclone season and things can change, but it's not worth panicking over. Cyclone Larry in 2006 is another comparison point. Category 5 at landfall near Innisfail. 170 kilometres per hour sustained winds, destroyed banana crops, caused massive structural damage. Again, that was a tightly wound, rapidly intensifying system that had time over warm water to develop properly. The current system 1T have that luxury. What we're re-looking at is more similar to the weak tropical lows that develop each wet season, bring heavy rain for a few days, then either dissipate or track out to sea without major impact. Useful for water storages and agriculture, occasionally problematic for flooding, but rarely catastrophic. Now, I want to address the Western Australia situation briefly because that S, the more concerning system right now. The remnants of Koji are forecast to track west into the Indian Ocean where conditions are extremely favourable for rapid intensification. If that system gets itself established about 200 kilometres offshore from the Kimberley coast, it could quickly become a severe tropical cyclone. The ensemble models are showing strong agreement on this. Between the 22nd and 25th of January, areas from Exmouth up to Coonaroora, including Broome, Karratha, Port Hedland, Dampier and Onslow, need to be watching this very closely. If the system tracks far enough offshore to intensify properly, then curves back toward the coast, you could be looking at a Category 3 or 4 cyclone. For Western Australia, this is more significant than the Queensland system. The Pilbara and Kimberley regions should be reviewing their cyclone plans now. Make sure you've got supplies ready. Fuel, water, non-perishable food. Secure loose items around the property. Know your evacuation routes if you are in a cyclone-prone area. The Kimberley coastline is already forecast to receive heavy rainfall regardless of cyclone development, 200 to 400 millimetres throughout next week as moisture streams in ahead of the system. Communities with dirt road access might be cut off temporarily due to flooding or road damage. Darwin will see plenty of rain as well, but the heaviest falls will remain offshore to the west due to that wind shear pattern I mentioned earlier. Still, expect 200 to 250 millimetres through the top end over the next few days. Minor flooding possible in low-lying areas and drainage systems. Back to Queensland, let me give you the practical advice you need for the week ahead. If you are in far north Queensland, particularly the Western Cape and the Cassowary Coast, prepare for on and off heavy rain through early next week. Make sure drainage systems around your property are clear. Secure loose items that could be damaged by heavy rain or strong winds. If you're in a flood-prone area and lose power, fill the bathtub with clean water before the storms hit. Gives you drinking water and flushing water if supply gets cut. Simple preparation that makes a big difference. For those with livestock in northern areas, make sure animals have access to high ground and shelter. Heavy rain can create boggy conditions quickly, and you don't want stock getting bogged. Southeast Queensland continue to monitor for severe thunderstorms each afternoon and evening. The Bureau will issue warnings if conditions warrant. Keep an eye on the radar, particularly if you are planning outdoor activities. These storms can develop quickly and produce localised heavy rain, strong wind gusts up to 80 or 90 kilometres per hour, and frequent lightning. If you are travelling through North Queensland next week, check road conditions before you head off. The Bruce Highway north of Cairns could see temporary closures if heavy rain causes flooding or landslips. Same for inland routes through the tablelands. For marine interests, particularly those operating in the Coral Sea or Gulf of Carpentaria, this is important. The monsoon trough will create hazardous conditions. Strong winds, rough seas and heavy rain will make for dangerous boating conditions through early next week. If you don't need to be out there, stay in port. Commercial fishermen working the Gulf or Coral Sea should be monitoring the situation closely. Once that low develops, conditions will deteriorate quickly. Plan accordingly. Now, I've mentioned the model several times, so let me explain what we're re-seeing. The Access model, which is the Bureau's main forecasting tool, has been fairly consistent over the past few runs. It develops the low in the southern Gulf by Monday, tracks it slowly east-northeast through midweek, then offshore by Thursday or Friday. The GFS, the American Global Model, shows a similar pattern but has the system slightly weaker and tracking a bit further north. That would put more rain into the northern Cape rather than the Cassowary Coast. The European model, which is generally the most accurate for tropical systems, splits the difference. It develops the low, tracks it offshore, but keeps it close enough to the coast that isolated heavy rainfall remains possible through the following weekend. Where they all agree is that this one to be a major cyclone threat to Queensland before Australia Day. The uncertainty is mainly around exact rainfall totals and how close the system comes to the coast after it moves into the Coral Sea. There's also this new AI-based ensemble model from Google Weather Lab that has been remarkably accurate lately. It predicted Koji S-track about 10 days out to within 50 kilometres. That is impressive for a long-range tropical forecast. Right now, it's showing good agreement for both the Queensland system and the Western Australia system. Multiple ensemble members clustered together, which indicates higher confidence in the general forecast. When those dots are close together on the model, that is high certainty. When they spread out over a wide area, that is low certainty. For the next 3 to 5 days, we've got decent certainty. Beyond that, things get murky, which is normal for tropical forecasting. What I'm watching for over the next 48 hours is whether that low in the Gulf develops faster or slower than expected. If it organises quickly, rainfall could be heavier and more concentrated. If it remains broad and disorganised, rainfall will be more widespread but less intense. I am also watching the interaction with tropical low 14U out near New Caledonia. If that system intensifies and tracks closer to the Queensland coast, it could actually help steer our Gulf low further offshore. That would reduce rainfall for coastal areas but increase the chances of cyclone development out in the Coral Sea. The other factor is sea surface temperatures. The Coral Sea is sitting at about 28 to 29 degrees Celsius right now. That is warm enough to support cyclone development, but it is not exceptionally warm. For rapid intensification, you'd want 30 or 31 degrees. So even if this system gets offshore and has room to develop, it is not going to explode into a Category 4 overnight. For those of you who've been asking about the barometric pressure changes, particularly in the granite belt, you'll notice rapid fluctuations over the next few days as these systems move through. Low pressure around 1,003 hectopascals is already being felt across Queensland. That can affect everything from joint pain to migraines for those sensitive to pressure changes. The pressure will drop further as the low develops in the Gulf, then gradually rise again as the system moves offshore. If you're re-affected by these changes, just be aware that the next week will be variable. Stay hydrated, manage your medications if needed, and don't overdo physical activity during the worst of it. Right, let me wrap this up with the key takeaways because I know some of you just want the bottom line. 1. A tropical low will develop in the Gulf of Carpentaria by Monday or Tuesday. It'll bring heavy rain to the western Cape York Peninsula and periods of heavy rain to the Cassowary Coast through early next week. 2. The system will move offshore into the Coral Sea by Thursday or Friday. After that, it may linger offshore or approach the coast somewhere between Townsville and Mackay. Confidence is low on exact movement after Friday. 3. the chance of a significant tropical cyclone landfall on the Queensland coast before Australia Day is very low. If it does develop into a cyclone, it'll be weak, Category 1 at most, due to ongoing land interaction. 4. Rainfall totals. Western Cape 150 to 250 millimetres, isolated 400. Cassowary Coast 100 to 200 millimetres. South of Cairns, scattered showers and storms but nothing widespread. 5. Southeast Queensland continues hot and humid with daily thunderstorm chances. Relief comes early next week with a southerly change. 6. Western Australia faces a more significant threat. The system off the Kimberley coast could become a severe tropical cyclone by mid to late next week. If you RE in the Pilbara or Kimberley, review your cyclone preparations now. This is cyclone season. Background risk is always there, but this particular Queensland system is not one to lose sleep over. Monitor the forecast every couple of days. Check for updates from the Bureau. Be prepared for heavy rain if you're in the far north, but don't panic. I'll be tracking this closely over the coming days and providing updates as the situation develops. If anything changes significantly, if the models start showing something different, I'll let you know immediately. That's what this channel is about. Honest, accurate, long-range forecasting without the hype or fear-mongering. For now, that's the situation. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll catch